Jimmy Russo was looking at diamond rings when the jeweler told him to try a different store, a cheaper store, in Van Nuys, where people like him belonged. It was 1965, Beverly Hills, a luxury jewelry store on Rodeo Drive. Jimmy was 58 years old, stagehand, had worked with Dean Martin for 15 years, built every set Dean had performed on. Loyal, hard-working, simple man. His 40th wedding anniversary was coming up next month. He wanted to get something nice for his wife, Anna. A ring, something to show her he still remembered, still appreciated. Dean had brought him along while shopping for a watch, asked Jimmy's opinion on different pieces. That's how Dean was, valued Jimmy's thoughts, treated him like a friend, not just crew. While Dean browsed the expensive watches, Jimmy had wandered over to the diamond ring display, pressed his face close to the glass, admiring the sparkle, the craftsmanship. "Anna would love something like that," Jimmy said to Dean. "Our anniversary next month, 40 years." Dean smiled. "Let's look at rings then." They walked to the ring counter together. That's when the jeweler approached. Harold Ashford, the owner, mid-40s, perfectly tailored suit, condescending smile. He addressed Dean, only Dean, completely ignored Jimmy. "Mr. Martin, wonderful to see you. How can I help you today?" Dean gestured to Jimmy. "My friend here is interested in looking at anniversary rings." Ashford glanced at Jimmy, took in the work clothes, the calloused hands, the simple appearance. His smile became strained. "Sir," Ashford said to Jimmy, his voice dripping with barely concealed disdain, "these pieces start at $5,000. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at—" He named a budget jewelry store in Van Nuys, a working-class neighborhood. The implication was clear. Jimmy felt his face go hot, embarrassed, ashamed. He turned to leave. "Wait, Jimmy," Dean said quietly. Then Dean turned to the jeweler. His voice was calm, almost casual. "How much for every ring in this display case?" What happened next would cost Dean Martin $300,000, but it would teach a jeweler a lesson he'd never forget. This is the story of how Dean Martin bought 47 rings and why he did it. Jimmy Russo came to America from Italy in 1928. He was 11 years old. His family settled in Brooklyn. His father worked construction. His mother took in sewing. They had nothing but hope and willingness to work. Jimmy learned English in school during the day, learned carpentry from his father at night and on weekends. By 15, he was working construction jobs. By 20, he was one of the best carpenters in Brooklyn. He met Anna in 1923. She was 17, also Italian, also immigrant. Her family ran a small bakery. Jimmy would stop by every morning on his way to work, bought bread, made conversation, eventually worked up the courage to ask her father's permission to court her. They married in 1925. Jimmy was 21, Anna was 19. They had nothing, lived in a tiny apartment, worked constantly, but they were happy. During the Depression, work dried up. Jimmy struggled to find jobs. Anna took in sewing just like Jimmy's mother had. They survived. Barely, but they survived together. After the Depression, Jimmy started getting work building sets, first for theaters in New York. The pay was better than construction, more steady. He was good at it, precise, reliable, professional. Dean trusted him, valued him. But outside of work, Jimmy was just a regular guy, lived in a modest house in the valley, drove an old car, wore simple clothes, saved his money, took care of his family. His wife, Anna, had been with him through everything: the move from Italy, the hard years, the eventual success. She'd raised their 3 kids, kept the house, supported Jimmy's career. Their 40th anniversary was coming up, December 1965. Jimmy wanted to do something special. Maybe buy her a nice ring, something she could wear and remember. He'd been saving,
had about $1,000 set aside. Knew it wouldn't buy anything fancy, but maybe something nice, something from a real jewelry store.
When Dean mentioned he was going to Rodeo Drive to look at watches, Jimmy had asked if he could come along. Maybe get some ideas. See what was available. Dean had said yes immediately. Come on, I'll drive. So there they were, Beverly Hills, the fanciest jewelry store Jimmy had ever been in. While Dean looked at watches, Jimmy had drifted over to the ring display. Just looking, dreaming, thinking about Anna's face if he could give her something like this. The rings were beautiful, more expensive than anything Jimmy could afford, but beautiful. Anna would love something like that, he'd said to Dean, not asking, just commenting. Dean had responded immediately. Let's look at rings then. That's when the jeweler, Harold Ashford, had approached. Ashford was the owner, third generation. His grandfather had started the store in 1920. His father had built it into one of the most exclusive jewelry stores in Beverly Hills. Ashford had inherited it, maintained the exclusivity, the high standards. He catered to celebrities, wealthy families, people who could afford the best. When he saw Dean Martin in his store, he was thrilled. Dean Martin was a star. Having him as a customer would be great for business. But when Dean pointed to Jimmy, this older man in work clothes with rough hands, Ashford made a judgment. This man didn't belong here. Couldn't afford these pieces. Was probably just wasting time. So Ashford had suggested, politely but firmly, that Jimmy try a different store, a cheaper store, in Van Nuys. Jimmy had felt it like a punch to the gut. The embarrassment, the shame, the clear message, you don't belong here. He'd turned to leave, face burning, eyes down. That's when Dean had stopped him. Wait, Jimmy. Dean's voice was calm, quiet, but there was something in it, something firm. Dean turned to Ashford. How much for every ring in this display case? Ashford looked confused. I'm sorry, Mr. Martin? Every ring, Dean said clearly. In this display case, how much? Ashford glanced at the display. It held their anniversary ring collection. 47 rings, each one carefully selected, high quality, expensive. Mr. Martin, that's 47 rings. The total value would be over $300,000. Dean pulled out his checkbook. I'll take them all. Ashford stared. All of them? All of them. Dean looked at Jimmy. Which one does Anna want? Jimmy was frozen, couldn't speak, couldn't process what was happening. Dean smiled gently. Come on, Jimmy, pick one for Anna. Jimmy's hand shook as he pointed to a ring. Simple band, single diamond, beautiful. The tag said $6,000, more than Jimmy made in 4 months, but modest compared to some of the others. That one, Jimmy managed to say. Perfect, Dean said. He looked at Ashford. That one's for Anna. The other 46? One for every person on my crew. Stagehands, lighting technicians, sound engineers, makeup artists, wardrobe staff, everyone. Christmas bonuses. Ashford's face had gone pale. Mr. Martin, I'm not asking what you think, Dean said, still calm, but cold now. I'm buying 47 rings. Do you want the sale or not? Ashford nodded quickly. Of course, Mr. Martin. Dean wrote the check, $300,000, about $2.8 million in today's money, handed it to Ashford. Then Dean turned to face the jeweler directly. You didn't insult me, Dean said. You insulted Jimmy. Jimmy's been working with me for 15 years. He's built every set I've performed on. He's one of the most professional people I've ever known, more professional than most people you'll ever meet in this store. Dean's voice was quiet, but every word carried weight. You came in here wanting to buy a ring for his wife, their 40th anniversary, and you judged him by his work clothes, decided he didn't belong, sent him to a cheaper store like he was beneath you.
Ashford started to apologize. "Mr. Martin, I didn't mean—" "Don't apologize to me," Dean interrupted. "Apologize to Jimmy." Ashford turned to Jimmy. "Sir, I apologize. I was wrong to—" "Save it," Dean said. "Jimmy doesn't need your apology. He needs your respect. And he's not going to get that from someone who judges people by how they dress." Dean turned back to Jimmy. "Pick out another ring, Jimmy." Jimmy was crying now, tears streaming down his face. "Dean, you already—" "For Anna," Dean said gently. "My gift for your anniversary. Pick another one." Jimmy looked at the display, pointed to another ring, still modest, $8,000. Dean paid for it separately, handed the box to Jimmy. "Both of these are for Anna," Dean said. "The other 46 get delivered to my studio by Friday, with handwritten notes saying each one is a Christmas gift from me to my crew. Understood?" Ashford nodded, couldn't speak. Dean and Jimmy left the store together, Jimmy still crying, still holding the two ring boxes like they might disappear. The story spread through Hollywood within days. Dean Martin had bought 47 rings from a Beverly Hills jeweler, spent $300,000 because the jeweler had insulted one of his crew members. Some people thought Dean had overreacted. $300,000 to make a point? But Dean's crew understood. Every single one of them received a ring that Christmas, with a handwritten note from Dean, thanking them for their professionalism, their dedication, their work. Carlos, the head lighting technician, opened his box backstage, saw the ring, read the note, sat down and cried. He'd worked with Dean for 8 years, never expected this. The ring was worth more than his car. Maria, from wardrobe, couldn't believe it was real, thought it was costume jewelry at first. When she found out it was a genuine diamond ring, she called her sister. They both cried on the phone. Maria had been supporting her family on her salary. This ring could change things if she ever needed to sell it, but she never would. It meant too much. Tony, one of the stagehands, had worked with Jimmy building sets. He knew the whole story, knew what had happened at the jewelry store. When he opened his ring box, he understood immediately why Dean had done it. It wasn't about the rings, it was about respect, about showing the crew they mattered. And they all heard the story about how a jeweler had judged Jimmy, about how Jimmy had been embarrassed, told to try a cheaper store, about how Dean had responded by buying every ring in the display case. It wasn't about the money, it was about respect, about understanding that professionalism isn't defined by appearance, that class isn't about wealth or clothes, that Jimmy, and by extension, all of them, deserved to be treated with dignity. Harold Ashford's business actually boomed after the story got out. Everyone in Hollywood wanted to shop at the jeweler where Dean Martin bought 47 rings. Directors came in, producers, other performers. They'd heard the story, wanted to be part of it, wanted to say they'd shopped where Dean Martin made that incredible gesture.
But the story had changed Ashford, too. He started paying attention to every customer who walked through his door, not just the ones in expensive clothes, not just the celebrities. A young actress came in looking for an engagement ring. She was wearing jeans and a t-shirt. The old Ashford would have judged her, assumed she couldn't afford anything, maybe suggested a different store. The new Ashford helped her find something beautiful within her budget, treated her with the same respect he'd give anyone. A construction worker came in wanting to buy an anniversary gift for his wife. Work clothes, calloused hands, just like Jimmy Russo. Ashford spent an hour with him, showed him different options, found something perfect, never once suggested he go somewhere cheaper. But Ashford never forgot the lesson. 20 years later, in 1985, he gave an interview about that day.
Dean Martin spent $300,000, Ashford said, not because he needed 47 rings, because I'd judged a man by his appearance, because I'd decided someone wasn't worthy based on how they dressed. Dean didn't yell, didn't make a scene, just bought every ring in the display case and gave them to his crew, made his point without having to argue it. Jimmy Russo deserved the same respect as anyone who walked into my store. Ashford paused. I learned that day that I'd been running my business wrong, that class isn't about money or clothes or status, it's about how you treat people. Dean Martin taught me that. Cost him $300,000, but honestly, worth every penny, because it changed how I saw my customers, how I saw people. In 1965, a jeweler told Dean Martin's crew member to try a cheaper store. Dean bought every ring in the display case, 47 rings, $300,000, one for his friend's wife, the rest for his entire crew. Not because he needed the rings, because he needed to make a point. Respect isn't about what you wear. It's about how you treat people. That's class.